Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, Chaos Kids. They're here. I'm Amber.
Ew. And I'm Naomi, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos. No!
Oh,
that was the movie. Oh my God, Spooky Ookie. I mean, that was the movie. It was one of those movies that I definitely saw too young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, as soon as you said that, I could see the back of Carol Ann's head in front of a snow-filled TV screen and like a hand on the screen. Like,
oh, God. Mm-hmm. I am so sorry. Yeah. What a film.
Oh, sister. Was that some foreshadowing as well?
Oh, no. No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Oh.
What's going on with you? Do you want to tell the listeners what happened right before we started recording?
Listen, okay, we're doing an afternoon recording, so I made myself a delicious cold brew iced coffee, came up to my little studio here, set my coffee down, and then my headphone cord got wrapped around my cup. So when I grabbed my headphones off the table, I flung my coffee across the room. Literally. It's on my carpet, on the wall, on my paintings.
Oh,
on my socks and on my shirt. And I'm just like sitting here surrounded by paper towels all over the ground. But none of my equipment got injured in the process.
Small things,
we're calling that a win.
That is a win. That is a win.
But now I don't have a beverage.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's okay.
I'm drinking water per use.
Mm-hmm. How was your event? Oh. Did you have a fabulous dress?
I mean, I just wore a black cocktail dress, you know.
Were you dressed to the nines?
Well, look, we've talked about this. I can't make it to 9. I can make it maybe to 8. Okay. Max. Like, that's pushing it. I would say it was probably somewhere around a 7, maybe a 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I did wear my red patent leather pumps. So
good choice with a black dress. That's
always
classic.
A good choice. Yes. And I do have this fabulous new raincoat that I bought like a month ago. And now we're in the rainy season, but it's like so fabulous. It's like hard to justify wearing it day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's black and it has a hood and it like cinches at the waist and flares a little bit. So it gives you kind of that dress silhouette, but the inside, and it's long. Like I think it might go to my knees, and the inside is lined with red satin.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. It's really fantastic. I wore that.
Perfect.
So, I was wearing a fancy dress and going to a fundraising auction dinner while, babies are being murdered in Palestine. It's fine. You know what? The charity's good. It's called Child's Play. I don't know all the stuff that they do, but I do know that the foundation started like 20 years ago with the goal of bringing like video games into children's hospitals. Mm-hmm. And I think they said Friday night, they're now in like 199 children's hospitals that they work with now, where they bring in video game set up video game stations and stuff for kids who are in the hospital to have games to play. So I think they do other stuff too. I wish I could tell you more, but so, it was for like a legitimate good cause. And so,
well, good.
It wasn't like, anyway. So you're not drinking anything today. So we're just going to gloss right over that. Thank you for asking, part of the program.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So let me tell you a story. I'm going to tell you about something that happened, and like, it's a bummer, but at the end, you're just going to be mad.
Oh, perfect.
Just throwing that out right out the gate.
Mm-hmm. I'm already mad. My coffee's on the ground, so we might as well keep it going.
Let's just triple down on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in January of 2020, Kristen Huntington was 30 years old. Kristen lived in Fairbanks, Alaska, and was a member of the Selawik, I think that's how it's pronounced, the Selawik tribe. Kristen lived with her boyfriend, Eric Rusted, and They were raising 2 children together, an elementary school-aged son that Eric fathered with another woman prior to his relationship with Kristen, and a 9-month-old baby girl that the couple shared named Chanel.
Oh.
One friend had this to say about Kristen. She worked really hard no matter what she was doing, and she loved people. People were attracted to her because of her smile and her laughter. She always took a moment to see how you were doing and checked in with her friends and family. She just glowed in so many ways. She was a really amazing person.
Oh.
On the 10th of January, a friend and coworker of Kristen reported Kristen missing to the Fairbanks Police Department. Kristen had apparently been a no-call, no-show 2 nights in a row, and this friend regularly picked up Kristen to give her a ride to work. And Kristen was a reliable friend and employee who wouldn't just miss work without a word, let alone 2 nights in a row.
Right. Oh, no.
This friend had legitimate concerns because it wasn't a secret that Eric was abusive with Kristen. Rusted had also had a lengthy record that included multiple convictions for assault and domestic violence.
God damn it. Okay.
In May of 2019, he was arrested for 4th-degree assault and criminal mischief against Kristen. He copped a plea deal on that charge in December of 2019. A stipulation of that deal was that he was to have no contact with Kristen, but it looks like he just went back to their apartment anyway.
Oh, I wonder if it was, did she want that or did he just force himself there?
I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not 100% certain, but it's possible that she, you know how these stories
it's
go,
really
right?
hard. They've got a 9-month-old too, and she's working.
Mm-hmm. It's quite possible that she let him back into the house, you know?
Yeah, it's hard.
So a couple weeks after that, on January 4th of 2020, just 6 days prior to Kristen's friend reporting her missing, police responded to a domestic disturbance call at the apartment of Kristen and Rusted. At that time, Kristen was the one that was arrested and charged with 4th-degree assault.
Okay.
For biting Rusted.
What, like while he had her in the chokehold or something? I mean.
Well, yeah, she told police that she did bite him, but that it was self-defense because Rusted was throwing her around by her hair.
Fuck. God.
But because police didn't see any physical injuries on her, she was the one charged that night. And when asked later why they chose to believe Rusted in this situation instead of Kristen, the police response was, quote, "Officers go with the information they have at the time. They don't look at the criminal history. The criminal history goes to sentencing considerations later on."
What?
I'm like, if this
Okay.
guy has a record of domestic violence, that means that Fairbanks police had likely been out there before, right? Or at the very least encountered Rusted before. And they could easily search this guy in the system during the call, right?
No, yeah, no kidding.
They have those computers in their they can look up your they can run your plates from their car. They can look up somebody's record in the car, right?
Yes.
So they can see this guy's history if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
If they even need to look it up at this point. I mean, how big is Fairbanks, right? Like,
yeah, like if they don't already just know him.
Yeah.
Wow,
so it doesn't
that
make any
sucks.
sense to me that they wouldn't see through his bullshit and take the side of Kristen. It also makes no fucking sense. It just makes me so mad. I can't imagine that like the no contact condition of his plea from like less than a month before that wasn't still in effect. Like, what are we even doing?
Right. Unless she requested to have it lifted. I don't know.
Maybe.
Ooh.
So police finally respond to this missing person report like the next day on the 11th of January. And they go to Kristen and Rusted's apartment. And Rusted is home. He tells police that he'd seen Kristen a few days earlier. He claimed they had an argument and she left and he hadn't seen her since.
And she just left her baby there?
That's right. She just left her 9-month-old baby and like was gone for a couple days.
Okay.
Yep. Rusted did let the police do a search of the apartment, which, you know, wasn't like the kind of search they would do with a warrant, but they looked around and didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I always wonder what kind of a statement that is from police. Like, how do they know what's out of ordinary in anyone's house?
Right. That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You come over often for dinner and you just know.
So you,
I mean, what do you mean? Yeah.
You know what's ordinary around here?
Yeah. I mean, I've been into some homes where I was certain they were ransacked, but that was just their home.
It's just how they lived.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time Marissa asking an old friend of ours if they were having a yard sale, and they weren't.
Oh, are you having a yard sale?
She was like, no. It was the best. Anyway.
There was nothing out of the ordinary at that point.
Okay.
So later that same day, on the 11th, Fairbanks police respond to a call from the front lobby of their own building, where they find Rusted bleeding from cuts on his wrists and arms that were clearly self-inflicted.
Oh, God.
Right. So they administered first aid, and then they took him to Fairbanks Memorial Hospital. And on the way there, Rusted was heard saying, quote, "I know I did it. Fuck, man."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did what?
Right. So I couldn't figure out where exactly when this statement was said, but this is a summarization that he told an officer that on the last day he saw Kristen, which was a few days earlier, he got blackout drunk. And when he woke up in his bed, he didn't know how he got there. So he got up, took his son to school, then visited another kid. And when he returned home, he saw Kristen dead on the floor.
Get out of here with your fucking blackout drunk. I don't remember what happened. Bullshit.
Every fucking time.
Fuck off.
Every fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the extent of what Rusted said to police at this time. Also, none of the articles mentioned Chanel at all at this point. So there's no information on where the baby was during all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So now the police have this confession and they go back to Kristen in Rusted's apartment. But again, they find nothing. So the next day, on January 12th, 2020, two officers go back again to the apartment complex based on a tip that Rusted had been seen putting bags and items into a van within the last 24 hours. And they had also discovered through a tip, I think from the complex manager, I don't know if he was the one that told them about the bags and stuff, but he told the police that there was a vacant apartment in the complex directly across the hall from the apartment where Kristen and Rusted lived.
Oh, okay.
And he told the police that the apartment had been vacant for a few months, like since September of 2019.
Okay.
Police were let into the apartment where they found a blue blanket halfway inside the closet, immediately inside the front door to the apartment. The lower half of the blanket was bound with twine and there were human toes sticking out of the bottom of the blanket.
Oh, no. God.
The front door of the apartment had marks consistent with being opened by force, including what appeared to be a shoe having struck the door. There was damage to the door frame as well, consistent with a forcible entry. The apartment was immediately treated as a crime scene, so the police did not touch the body, and that meant that the body was not unwrapped from the blanket and not identified at that time.
Okay.
The day after the discovery of the body in the empty apartment, police received a call from the mom of Rusted's son that lived with him and Kristen. She told them that on January 10th, the day that Kristen was reported missing.
Mm-hmm. Hold on really quick. His ex-girlfriend, baby mama, lives with them?
No, she does not.
Oh.
Just the son does.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the son's mom lives with them.
No, she called the police
okay.
because, let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
She called the police because Rusted called her on the 10th out of the blue and said he was putting their son on a plane to send back to her so that their son could move back to living with her. Just quick and dirty. All of a sudden.
Wow. Okay.
And once her son arrived, the mom asked the son, like, what had happened. And her son told her that his dad and Kristen had been fighting in the living room and his dad was throwing things at Kristen. And the next morning, the house was messy. He was eating cereal and Kristen was laying down asleep with a blanket over her.
No, this poor little kid. Oh my God.
So his dad took him to school. And when he got home from school that day, the house was clean and Kristen was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rusted asked his son if he wanted to move back home to go live with his mom. And the son said yes.
Wow. Oh my God. Laying down sleeping. That's chilling.
Isn't that awful? I can't.
Yeah. Oh God.
So Rusted's own cousin, who also lived in that apartment complex, shared that there was a long history of domestic violence between Kristen and Rusted. Specifically, the morning of January 10th, while the two were in the cousin's apartment, this cousin stated that Rusted, quote, threw a bag of trash at Kristen, then held the plastic bag over her face to the point she could not breathe.
What the fuck?
The cousin pulled Rusted off of Kristen, and then Rusted punched Kristen in the face and left the apartment. So then the cousin goes to sleep, and when she wakes up, Kristen is also gone. This information, I believe, comes from court documents, not the police reports.
Okay.
No, this was not reported.
Right.
On January 14th, the autopsy identified the body found in the empty apartment was, in fact, Kristen Huntington. The manner of death was determined as homicide from a brain injury caused by blunt force trauma to the head. There were at least 2 mortal injuries to the back of her head and 1 large laceration to the front of her head that penetrated to the skull.
Jesus Christ.
A more thorough search of Kristen and Rusted's apartment did find large bloodstains on the carpet, and an area around the TV stand had been scrubbed in an attempt to remove evidence.
Mm-hmm.
This was the same area that Rusted's son had seen Kristen, quote, asleep, covered in a blanket.
Oh my God, I cannot believe. Oh God.
On January 16th, 2020, Eric Palmer Rusted was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, and misconduct with a corpse. I did not dive deep into this guy's trial, but February 1st, 2023, Rusted was sentenced to 50 years with an additional 15 years suspended with a probation period of 10 years. I don't understand what that means. So a total of 65 years, but I don't understand the terms of that sentence. I imagine that the 15 years was for one of the other charges, and they suspend it and they hold that over him unless he fucks up in prison and
Correct.
Add it back on. Is that how that
Correct.
works?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The presiding judge at sentencing said, quote, Rusted's actions violated some of the most basic societal norms of family and bodily autonomy.
Yeah. Where's this baby? Oh, you're going to tell me. I'm very
this is
scared
where
about the baby.
And you should be. This is where it gets fucking worse, because it turns out Rusted had taken Chanel to the house of one of his friends, Nikki Richmond, a white woman not related to him or Kristen in any way, a couple days before he was arrested. He supposedly signed their daughter Chanel over to Nikki and her partner, and that's where she has stayed.
What?
After Rusted was found guilty and sentenced, Nikki Richmond filed to adopt Chanel in the Alaska Superior Court. Simultaneously, Kristen's mom, Arlene Ballett, requested custody of her granddaughter in the Selawik tribal court for all the obvious reasons, they are actually related to each other, and Chanel is a member of the Selawik tribe and should be raised by her own people.
Obviously, yeah. And her daughter just died, and that baby is a piece of her daughter. I mean, God, there's so many things embedded in that. What the fuck?
The Alaska court refused Nikki's request, stating that the Selawik tribe, where Arlene registered her granddaughter as a member, has jurisdiction over custody of this little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In December of 2022, the Selawik tribal court found Kristen's mom, Arlene, a tribal elder, able to meet the little girl's needs and better able to connect her to her native culture. But instead of accepting that decision, Nikki Richmond fought to overturn it and keep the little girl with her and her racist partner.
What?
She filed a lawsuit against Arlene and the tribal court, seeking to overturn the order by the Alaska State Court and the Supreme Court.
Shut the fuck up. Why?
She claimed she was not given an opportunity to be heard and that the tribal court was not impartial. And this claim was upheld, which allowed this fucking white lady to maintain custody until the tribal court addressed the issues.
She only has this baby because a murderer dropped her off at his friend's house so that he can get rid of this baby's mom. I mean, this is so fucking problematic.
It's not done.
Oh my God.
Kristen's poor mother had been quietly fighting for custody of Chanel for years, speaking at conferences, including one for missing and murdered Indigenous women, where she finally connected with the lawyer that would ultimately help her. Most of what we know about what's been going on comes from a childhood friend of Kristen's. Apparently, no one involved in the court case is allowed to speak publicly about any of it, so Kristen's friend is doing all the talking on Arlene's behalf.
Mm-hmm.
In June of 2023, the Supreme Court upheld the 1978 Indian Child Welfare Act, which says the first priority is to put the child in the care of a member of their extended family. If that is not possible, the child should be placed with a member of their tribe. The third option is to look for, quote, other Indian families. Only after those three options have been exhausted will they be eligible to be placed with a non-native family.
Good.
So apparently this past summer, there had been a challenge made to the Supreme Court about this 45-year-old act.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks later, on July 17th, 2023, the Selawik Tribal Court ruled again that Chanel should be with Arlene and that starting on July 31st, a 3-week transition period would begin. Nikki refused the court order to return Chanel to Arlene, and she is still not home with her family to this very fucking day as we record this episode.
Shut up.
Nikki has hired an attorney who is helping her keep custody of Chanel, and it looks like this attorney has other white clients that he is also helping keep Native children from tribal families. And the next hearing on this case is on November 16th, 2023. So about right between the time we're recording this and when this episode will drop.
Oh my God.
There's a petition to return Kristen's little girl to Arlene, and I'll link that in the show notes. Kristen's friend continues to speak out and be a voice for Arlene, who can't do that herself still.
Mm-hmm. How does this Nikki woman, how is she okay with herself? This is disgusting.
It's so gross. And there's this website that is where the petition is. There's like been a website put together for, bring Chanel home. I'll go find it and I'll link it in here. But there's a whole section on there that are like screenshots of like Facebook posts from her and her partner where they are saying the nastiest, like racist shit about Chanel. Like these people have no business really around anyone, let alone raising a Native child.
They're saying nasty shit about Chanel.
Yeah, they're being like racist fuckheads. They've called her Mowgli. They talk about her pulling her weight around the house. She's like fucking 4.
Oh, this poor little thing.
It is unfucking real.
So they don't want her. They just want to win.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fucking gross. That's gross.
It's disgusting. And it sounds to me like there's this attorney that they've hired, and you should see pictures of this guy. I mean, he's just like this old white-haired, white-beard fucking white dude in Alaska who's like fighting for white people to have Native babies like given to them. It's just, it's
why
unconscionable.
What's his reason?
It is just because they're racist fucking assholes.
I hate it.
It's just another version of colonization, Amber. It's just another version of like indoctrinating into white culture because they believe that they're better. They believe that they're better because they're white. I mean, that's really what it has to come down to at the end of the day.
So
they
gross.
don't think that the tribal community and this beautiful little girl's like Native grandmother is better for her.
Oh my God.
So like there's this act that was enacted in 1978 and 45 years later, people are trying to challenge it and say, this is wrong. White people need to be able to snatch Native babies and raise them in white houses.
It's so fucking gross and so disappointing that it's still happening.
It's still happening.
Yep. I hate everything.
Me too.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. Obviously, I'll update you guys if I see any movement on this one. More and more, I just feel like, Amber, like with the crimes, I want to cover more cases of voices that just aren't heard enough.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I want to do. And so today I'm speaking up for Kristen and for Chanel and for Arlene and for the, Selawik tribe, because this is fucking horrific. And it just makes it makes my blood boil. It makes me so mad.
Fuck.
So mad. So there you go, sister. That's what I got for you today.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, I have a chaos that's a bummer and loosely has some common threads going on here. So kind of.
We do this a lot. Have you noticed that?
It's almost like we're related.
It's almost like we're related and we think the same way about things.
Yeah. Well, you might be familiar with this. Do you know about Terri Schiavo?
That name is so familiar. So I think that as you start to tell me, I'm going to be nodding and going, oh yeah. Because that name sounds so familiar. It's like ringing a bell but I can't place it. So yeah, but no, but yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you about her. So she was born Terri Schneider. She has a little brother, Bobby, and Terri struggled quite a bit with her weight throughout her childhood. And after high school, she went on a strict diet and drastically changed her entire appearance, right?
Okay.
Her mom said that was the first time she'd ever been in a bikini. She was just like really feeling it, right? She's beautiful. It was shortly after.
I have feelings about all that, but like if she feels good, then you know what I mean? Like
I have such strong feelings about all. We'll get into it.
Okay, good.
So it was shortly after that she met Michael Schiavo, and Michael's family absolutely loved Terri. She was always laughing. She was super cheerful. Michael's brother Scott said Terri never stopped smiling. And then in November of 1984, Terri and Michael got married.
Okay.
So it's February of 1990. Michael said he woke up around 4:30 in the morning and heard a thud. And he found Terri lying in the hall. At the time, Terri's younger brother, Bobby, was living above them. So Michael went up and got Bobby. And Bobby said when he got there, Terri was still breathing, but it was like a snoring or a gurgling sound.
So were they like in an apartment complex? He lived
either
in
that or like a
townhome
situation? Something like that, or like a duplex. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they call an ambulance. She's taken to the hospital. She's resuscitated several times on the way to the hospital.
Ugh.
She was only 26 years old and had gone into cardiac arrest.
Oh my God.
I know. Doctors determined that it was due to a very low level of potassium in her body, and they linked it to her bulimia.
Oh no.
I know. So when her heart stopped, there was no blood going to her brain, and her brain was deprived of oxygen for 10 minutes. And this left Terri in a persistent vegetative state, according to doctors.
The bell's getting louder.
Mm-hmm.
The bell's getting louder. Yep.
Yeah. So Michael moved in with the Schindlers. He moved in with them so that the family could all come together collectively for Terri's care. He even put himself through nursing school and became Terri's legal guardian. He sued the hospital because they didn't spot the low potassium level soon enough. Like she wasn't triaged properly, and like the 10 minutes without oxygen could have been spared. He won the lawsuit.
So he brought her home with all of this medical equipment and was like caring for her in this vegetative state, like at home on his own?
No, she's still in the hospital. He quit his job, moved out of their home so that he could, and moved in with his in-laws, and then went to nursing school. And like the plan was, we're going to be doing like aggressive therapy, and I need to figure out how to care for her and all the things. So like he just went all in.
Was the plan to at some point bring her home then to do that? Or this was all he was going to do this in the hospital where she was? Was she in like a long-term care facility at this point? Sorry, am I jumping ahead?
No. This is absolutely exactly the kind of conversation we're supposed to have. So we'll get to it. So at this point, at every point, there's several doctors that are saying that she is in a permanent vegetative state. And there are other doctors that are saying, no, rehab, blah, blah, blah. We could get somewhere with this, whatever, right? So at this point, when she's first in the hospital, Michael's all in. We're going to do this. She's going to bounce back, right?
Okay.
And he's doing everything he can. He wins the lawsuit. Him and Terri are awarded several millions of dollars, and a lot of that was used for Terri's care. He testified that he wanted to bring Terri home where he could care for her, but Terri's family felt like some of that money should go to them.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, here's where it gets.
This is okay.
Well, they said that Michael already owed them over $10,000 in living expenses from living in their home, and that the money was awarded to Michael and Terri, not just Michael.
But Michael is her husband.
Yes.
So what's Terri's is Michael's. That's the law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it when you make that face.
Mm-hmm. So they claim that Michael promised to give them half of whatever he was awarded, but Michael says that he never said that. Okay.
Yeah, why would he? He needs all that money to take care of his wife.
Well, we'll get to that.
And he could easily pay them back that $10,000 after he gets the settlement. Like what? Okay.
Okay. So for the next 2 years, doctors and, Michael and her team attempted occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, other experimental therapies, hoping to return her to a state of awareness without success.
Ugh.
3 years. And we'll get to it, but there's a ton of video footage of Terri, and she's not in a coma. She's not in a vegetative state. She's in a state that some people are born with, if that makes sense. We'll get to it. Okay. This is where it starts to get really controversial and ugh.
Okay.
So at this 3-year mark, doctors tell Michael that she won't ever get any better. She has no consciousness. And Michael believes that the best thing for her is to let her go.
Is she being kept alive at this point by machines?
The only machine that is keeping her alive is a feeding tube.
Because she can't feed herself, or she can't
swallow or eat.
But she's not she's not on a respirator or anything like that. Okay.
No. Mm-mm. This is where it gets very fucked. So.
Oh, I think I know what ends up happening here a little bit. The right to lifers start, the Jesus people show up, right?
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever in my life even thought of that perspective as ooh, they have a point. But in this one, I'm still on the fence. I'm still on the fence. So I'm curious to see what you say.
Okay.
So her parents, they think that Michael's motivation is entirely so that he could get her portion of the lawsuit upon her death. But Michael says
he's already going to get it anyway, because he already had, he would anyway, because he's her husband and their shit is shared.
Okay, they don't want her to die.
I mean, I understand that.
They want her to get her half because she's still alive. And so, okay.
And then sue him for it.
I'm not sure.
Okay, this is all just so gross. Okay, I right now, I'm not sure I agree with whether or not to let her go, but I also don't really like her parents very much. But okay.
Okay, well, I toggled back and forth throughout this whole story, and I am still uncertain about where I land. So
Okay.
So, and the thing is they had loved Michael. There's no abuse. He was a wonderful husband. There's no reason for him to suddenly be just a selfish shitbag, right?
Right.
But Michael says that him and Terri had these conversations of hey, if I'm a vegetable, pull the plug, which a lot of couples do.
Yes, they do. That's what you do when you marry somebody. You're like, okay, you're going to be the one in charge of making decisions for me if something happens to me. And here's what I need you to know.
Yeah. The thing that's tough is that she's not a vegetable.
She's not a vegetable. And also I'm wondering, there's also probably not any notarized documentation of her wishes.
No, she's either. 26 years old. She didn't have a will.
Let this be a lesson to all of us.
That's exactly right.
We should have that. I did that. How many? It was a couple years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm perfectly healthy, but fuck, man, who knows? Something like this could happen to me. Who knows, right?
Yep, exactly.
So I take care of all of that, right. And I have people that I trust. Hello, sisters, to make decisions for me, and my will, what I want done, is written down in those documents.
Oh, okay. So, so Michael basically said that that was what Terry's wishes were. And that, yeah, he was holding on to hope that Terry's condition would improve, but it wasn't. So in 1998, he petitioned the court to have Terry's feeding tube removed. So this is where it gets, I mean, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but this is where it gets rough for me because it's not unplug the life support. It's pull out the feeding tube and she's she's alert and awake and just starving to death.
So I guess I just am not fully understanding her state at this point.
Okay, well, that is also up for debate. So we'll get into that.
Okay.
We'll get into that. Okay.
Okay.
So then the parents filed a countersuit and said that they wanted to keep Terri alive and they wanted to care for her. So they're basically like, divorce her if you want, take your money and go away. We will take her home. We want her. And he's saying, this isn't what Terri wants. I promised her this isn't what she wants, right?
Right.
So this turned into years long. With
right. They're
more
just
than
like in court, like back and forth, like filing, counterfiling, filing, counterfiling, motion, counter motion, motion, counter motion, on and on and on. And in the meantime, she's just sitting there the same as always because nothing can be done either way because it's all tied up in court, right?
Well, again, that's also up for debate because what they're saying is that when he decided that there was no hope, he halted all of those therapies that she was doing. So they felt like she was progressing and he threw in the towel and now she's just existing there and that it's his fault that she's not improving because he is her legal guardian and he makes all the medical decisions. And when he decided it was time, he stopped all the therapy that she was doing.
Oh.
Right. So anyway, this goes on for years. There's more than 19 judges that have heard this case. They're all ruling in Michael's favor. It turned into a fucking media shit show.
Yep.
With the pro-lifers outside of the court and outside of the hospital. And then also people in support of Michael. And it was fucking contentious as shit. So according to Michael, Terry's doctors had said that the only functioning part of her brain was her brainstem, which is responsible for basic instinctual functions like breathing and blinking. But her parents released a video of their interactions with Terri showing her responding to things. She's responding to music. There was one where she appears to be smiling, another one where she's following a balloon with her eyes. And then it's just this thing of like, just like in so many criminal cases where each side has an expert that are saying opposite things. There's several neurologists arguing that those are involuntary responses and not conscious thought because her brain scan shows that she's not capable of conscious thought. And then other neurologists that are like, no, she's clearly responding to something. And maybe with more therapy, she could actually get to some better place of functioning, right?
It's
rough.
And what do I know? What do any of these judges know? What does anybody know? If neurologists can't agree, then what do the rest of us fucking know?
The rest of us know, and I sometimes feel some type of way about this. What we know is that her husband is the decision maker. But I also, being the mother of very young adults, can understand, like, I've cared for this human for 20 plus years. And you're going to swoop in and decide. Like as a mom, I get, you know what I mean?
I do know you mean.
That's rough. That's really rough. Again, this is why it's so important to have a will. Yes. So, yeah. So in 2001, again, the trial judge ruled in Michael's favor. So this is 11 years after her cardiac arrest. So the day after the ruling, her feeding tube was removed. Then 2 days later, a call came in to a local radio station from a woman who used to date Michael, and she said that he admitted to her that he and Terri never had that conversation about staying on life support because they were so young, and why would they have that conversation? So the parents filed an emergency appeal, and Terry's feeding tube was put back in.
Oh my God.
This poor woman.
This poor woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now it's March of 2002. They're back in court. Her parents argue that Michael didn't provide Terri with the kind of treatment that she needed, so it was unclear as to whether her prognosis could have improved. Michael denies these allegations and said that he exhausted every avenue. And Terry's parents said that was true in the early years, but not since he had a change of heart. So again, back and forth in court for years. 2003, a final decision was made in Michael's favor, and the judge ordered Terry's feeding tube to be removed.
Again.
Within a week, Terry's parents' final appeal was exhausted. State Representative Frank Atkinson and the Florida legislature passed Terry's law in an emergency session, giving Governor Jeb Bush the authority to intervene in the case, and Governor Bush immediately ordered the feeding tube to be put back in.
Motherfucking Jeb Bush.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, the Florida legislature can get shit done if they want to. It's just a matter of what they want to get done, right?
Mm-hmm. So finally, now it's May 2004, Terry's law is overturned, and the Supreme Court upheld the original ruling, saying Terry's law is unconstitutional and the governor does not have a right to
make medical decisions about people in his state.
Yep. So finally, everything has been exhausted. There's nothing more her parents can do. March 18th, 2005, her feeding tube is removed for the final time. And March 31st, 2005, at 9 a.m., Terri passed away.
How old was she? Like 40 years old now?
Yeah. But also that's March 18th to March 31st. Like, she just starved.
Oh.
But again, like, the neurologists that are saying the things that Michael believes is they're telling him, like, she doesn't feel that. She has no feeling in her body from, like, the neck down anyway. And she has no, I guess, the part of your brain that would tell you that you're hungry isn't functioning as far as what he believes.
But if she still has a brain, like a working brain stem, she basically has, like, the lizard part of the brain is still functioning. The lizard brain feels pain and hunger.
That's the other thing is in one of the videos I don't know what they're doing. It looks like they might be putting Vaseline on her lips or something. And she is like moving her head back and forth and going, ugh, like she doesn't like it, you know? And again, there's so many videos where I'm watching this. And again, like Michael and I were watching them last night and I'm like, there's children that are born exactly like that. Like, you don't just say, like, that's not a vegetative state. But Michael's attorneys are saying, like, that those videos were sort of doctored up. I don't know how. And then, like, the neurologists that are, like, on his side are saying that's all involuntary. You have to watch these videos. It doesn't look involuntary to me. Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. These are just some fun facts. In some states, only married relatives have the standing to make treatment decisions, leaving those who are living together but not married at all the risk of being ignored, which is sort of why we have things like, you know, what's it called? Like domestic partners. And I guess my issue is
registered domestic partners or whatever.
Yeah. My issue is this whole, it's not like she was in her 40s and this was her husband of 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's all just so, because the thing is like, I mean, and this goes to a broader topic of discussion for me around like why the push for example, like marriage equality, right, is like the wrong fight, because it's not because what it does is, because like when marriage equality passed, a lot of states like Washington State, who had domestic partnership as an option, they got rid of domestic
Mhm.
partnership because like, well, you don't need that anymore. You can just get married. But like lots of people don't want to get married for lots of reasons. And there's lots of people that would consider themselves like domestic partners that aren't like marriage partners. Does that make sense? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
there's a world where like you and I could live together and register as domestic partners so that you could have like my medical insurance coverage because we're living together, even though we're sisters. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So like,
Yeah.
when you remove that option and make marriage the only option, then you actually make it more difficult for lots of other people to get the same kind of benefits of like partnering together in life that aren't marriage partners, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like,
Yeah.
and yeah, then there's also, yeah, I mean, I guess but also like, I don't know, right? Like, okay, I think about it from my perspective. If something were, if like my son and his girlfriend decided to get married and then something happened to him like this, where decisions like that had to be made, and then they had only been married for like a couple years, they were together for a couple years before they got married. There's no way that she would just make decisions without like keeping me, like without making me a part of that decision process in any way, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like I do feel for her parents in that like Michael just decided and did not want to hear them about like what they wanted for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so hard. It's
But
so
it
hard,
is hard.
but it's hard because there's no way to know that that's what he's saying that he knows what Terry wanted, and I can totally understand as a parent hoping that some miracle will happen. That is your child.
Right.
And you're so emotionally wrapped up in it that you're maybe not making a decision that's rooted in science. You're
I just
making a decision of what's best for you. I selfishly kept my dog alive and forked out thousands and thousands of dollars, and he probably unnecessarily suffered. And that wasn't for him, that was for me.
well, at least you know that
You
now.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
I do know
so
what you mean.
hard.
I do know what you mean. But also like if she starved to death,
Mhm.
like being in a like a coma or a vegetative state, typically like you need more than just a feeding tube to stay alive, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like you have to be, I don't know. I don't know. I'm asking because I don't fucking know. But it seems to me like if all she needed was a feeding tube, like there's lots of people that need a feeding tube to stay alive that we don't just pull the tube and let them starve to death.
No. No. I am not a doctor. It
No,
does that,
we're not
and
doctors. We're FBI profilers, but we are not
yeah.
doctors.
When the pro-lifers came out in droves, it was because of the video released by her family, and I think people truly expected to find a woman on her back with tubes all over, and she's unconscious.
Right.
And then they saw that, and they're like, "That's not a fucking vegetative state. Like,
Right.
that is not a vegetative state."
Right.
Mhm. I don't know. But that's the devastating story of Terri Schiavo, but it just the who gets to decide, I don't know.
I
I don't
remember
know.
like hearing this story over the years, but not really
Mhm.
following it. So not really knowing like the
Yeah.
whole story. So this was really interesting to like hear the whole thing in like one sitting.
Mhm.
And wow, there's just a lot in that story. There's just a lot in her case, like in her experience and like Michael's like there and the family, like everything that's in that. There's just so much there. There's so
I
much
know.
in there.
I know. I
And I
think where I
mean,
get stuck too is like, by all accounts, like, Michael was a wonderful, wonderful person and husband. Like, I think he truly was making the decision that he believed Terry wanted. I don't think he was motivated by money, because he could have divorced her, allowed her parents to take guardianship, taken his half of several millions, and been on his way.
but instead he fought tooth and nail to
He
let her
fought tooth and
go because he believed in his heart that that's what she would have wanted.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, that
But
is
what got me thinking about this that's ultimately so fucking devastating, and we need to just be better to women, is all of this was because she wanted to be thinner,
yep.
because she was chubby.
Yeah.
She died at 26.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's so much in the story. And as soon as I was
So-
saying that, like I was thinking about that. That's where I started with this. Like that.
Yeah.
Let's start right there. Let's start right there.
Let's start right there. Yeah. Fucking
Ugh.
awful.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's be better to women. Let's especially Black and women of color.
Mhm.
And wow.
Yeah.
This whole episode brought to you by fucking Do Better.
Do better, be better.
Yes. Well, sister, thank you for
write
that.
your will. You're welcome.
And go write your will. Yeah, go write your will.
Go write
your
your
living will. Write your living will. You need to appoint a power of attorney for medical decisions and a power of attorney for financial decisions, and you need to have a will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And pick people that you think will probably be alive for a long time and who will make decisions based on what you want, and people who love you enough to do the right thing for you.
And I guess maybe clearly outline what you consider to be a pull the plug situation, since doctors don't seem to agree.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I love you.
All the PSAs today. I love you too, sister. We have some good of the order, the usual things, right?
We're on all the things. We've got a website. We've got a Facebook. We've got a TikTok. We've got an Instagram and a Twitter.
Send us feedback. We've gotten some feedback and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
You can email us. Send your hate mail to Amber, but I'm sorry. No, I take that back. She can't handle that. Send your hate mail to me. Send your love letters to Amber, but they both go to crimewineandchaos@gmail.com. Go rate us. Yeah, go rate us, especially on the Apple podcast app. Give us a star rating. And if you have something really nice to say, then you can write little typey for us, because we love that. That makes our day.
Wow.
Oh, thank you, sister. I love you.
That was so
fucking chaotic.
Chaotic. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at crimewineandchaos.com/Patreon. Cheers.
That's my tenure.
Oh.
2 officers. Hey, thanks.